Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to be working on a Atlas reel, and it's a lever drag reel, nice size, used for trolling, drigging, some deep drop fishing, and well, this is a reel maybe you haven't heard about before. This one is made in Taiwan, and I believe the manufacturer is Omoro, and I don't know a lot more about it. This one was sent in by Greg. He actually dropped it off at the shop. He's asked me to tune that up, so we're going to do just that. I haven't been inside one of these, so it'll be an adventure. We'll see what we can do to restore the reel, keep it running, and well, let it get out there and go fishing again. Well, we start by taking off the exterior pieces and parts, and this is going to have one of those "don't try this at home" kind of things. But just, I guess, a word of caution if and when you do. But this nut is, well, I've tried briefly to just kind of overlay, and every one of the big ones that I have, whether it's that, the Shimano's, all of the ones that are common to that, well, they're just too small. So what you want to do, if you're going to do this, I'm going to use a channel grip pliers. I'm going to try and grip it away from the handle so I don't scar the handle. I want to nestle the jaws right inside those little grooves. I want to be careful with that to see if we can't just break that, just like that. And then do the rest by hand, because if you continue to do that, you're going to scrape up the handle. And well, if you're doing service on your own reel, you can just go, oh well, I guess that's the consequence of that. But when you're servicing other people's reels, well, you try to keep them in as good a condition as possible. Taking off the handle, we have a little Teflon washer and then a metal-backed washer. And you don't need to take the handle off to remove the side plate, but you do need to take the handle off to service the main gear, so we might as well do that then. When I take those pieces and parts off, I put them into a parts tray. I use a fast food container. I recommend that you do the same, that you have some kind of parts strategy. It doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to take it off, put it in a fast food container. But know what you're going to do with your pieces and parts before they come off. That way, when it's time to reinstall, you're going to be able to go quickly to them, find them, and, well, reinstall them. All right. Next off, I'm going to take the drag adjuster off. There is a screw cap with a spring. Then there is the lever. That lever has a little insert in it right here. And then we have one more Teflon washer on the back here. But one of the things I'm noticing, even though the reel looks clean, it does look like we have a good amount of dirt underneath. Whether that's dirt or old grease. Could be old grease, because that's where your spool comes through. But, well, we'll just find out as we continue to go along. You want to use a Torx for this. There's 3 screws, apparently 3 screws. I don't think these two are holding the side case on. When you go to look for your side case, make sure that you take a look on the back here. Some reels do have screws that come in the back as well. But I did pre-fit this. I'm just going to use my palm driver with the Torx, and it always helps to have a good set of bits, just because every now and then you get the oddball. This one's an oddball. It's a very big Torx head for the reels. Most of the time the ones I use are smaller. I think this says a Torx 20 on it. Yep, VT20. Okay, when I take these off, I'm going to put those into a corner of my parts tray so I don't lose them. And also I'm going to compare. You want to make an assumption that all of these screws are going to be the same, but you know what they say about assumptions. So as I put these in, I'm just going to check if there's one or more of those that are not the same size. I want to mark the location from them. This is the 3rd one, so this should come out now. We'll get our first look inside regarding this reel. Should be able to pull that case off. It's separated easily. we've got a dirty reel inside here, but that's why Greg sent it in, right? Because there is a lot of dirt. One of the things I'm noticing here, I guess this could have been set up for some kind of an anti-reverse dog. It's kind of an interesting little setup here. Maybe that goes with a 2-speed case or something. Certainly doesn't apply to this because your main gear is all the way in here. And I did note that this is a anti-reverse clutch. So there's a one-way clutch in there. Okay, you can pick your choice here in terms of what you want to do. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the main gear out. Set that aside for a moment. Do a quick mop up here. Get all that old grease and dirt and the like out there. There is a washer here that came out in that mess. That's going to go on the back of this. And after I get just a good hunk of that dirt out of there, I'm just going to spray that down with some penetrating oil and let it sit for a moment. There's no real sequence to doing a lever drag reel. You're going to do two sides of it. You're going to do the gear side and you're going to do the spool side. So whatever you want to do, whatever your mood feels like that day, go ahead and do it. It's not going to matter too much one way or another. I got most of the dirt out of that. I'm going to take a penetrating oil now. I'm just going to spray it on the case and let it kind of act as the solvent. And just let that sit. Do the same thing on the main gear here. And while I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. My channel features all kinds of fishing reel services. I talk a lot about the manufacturers. This one is a Taiwanese manufacturer. As I mentioned, I believe the name of the company that made this one is Amuro. I did go on to the website, try to find information on it. I couldn't find any information about this particular reel, but there are a lot of reels, so I'm thinking that that one is a trade reel manufacturer who may also sell under their own name. But there's a lot of different names there, and well, nothing wrong with that. Trade reel manufacturers have been around for a very long time, and well, this might just be an example of that. I understand this reel retails for about $175, so it's a good price point. It's a value price point. We're going to see about the materials inside. Right now, I think I'm very impressed with the main gear. It appears to be a stainless main gear, high quality. So if you're looking to spend something under $200, you don't want to go north of that with something like an Avet reel or an Accurate reel. This may be a good alternative. Right now, what I see I like. All right, there's two sides, as I mentioned, to this reel. There's the gear side, and then there's the spool side. Let's remove the spool. It's got a little tape here holding the line on. I prefer a rubber band to keep that stuff together, but of course you can't get a rubber band over the spool and under the frame. It doesn't work that way. So we'll just use that rubber band to hold everything in place, and then we'll show you how the spool side works. And right now, I haven't worked on one of these reels, but right now it looks like a fairly conventional lever drag fishing reel. One of the things that you want to do if you haven't worked on a particular reel is to take pictures along the way. Those pictures may prove critical if you have to walk away from a project, if you get lost, if you've forgotten how the reel gets assembled, then those pictures may be your only saving grace. I couldn't find a schematic for this reel on the internet, so kind of flying a little bit blind, but again, your pictures will help. This is your pinion gear. Just use that spray again. There's a lot of old grease on this reel. So outside it looks nice. Inside, well, there's a little grease here. You're going to notice when you come down this reel that the bottom end of the pinion gear is shaved off. That's so it fits into the pressure plate on the spool side. And you just want to make sure that as you are servicing your reel, you clean the channels where that gear is going to intersect with the main gear. You'll see there's a difference in diameter here. That's going to sit inside the pressure plate. Let's take that pressure plate off. We have a bearing on the inside of the pressure plate. That's a sealed bearing, so there's nothing you can really do about that. This is what we were talking about in terms of the shaved down side is going to fit in here. And when I work on lever drag reels that have this type of a setup, I like to make sure that I mount the pinion gear to the pressure plate and not into the side case bearing. The reason for that is it's much easier to merge or mesh in the gear teeth here with the main gear than it is trying to mesh that shave section into that section there. Okay, that's clear. I'm going to put that in. We've greased that. Let's take a look at the case. The case is an aluminum frame, and like the other part, it's got some dirt and debris in there, so we'll take the time to clean that now. I'm going to use a kitchen scrubby, some rod and reel cleaner. Just run that inside where you can get to kind of polish up and clean off some of the dirt that you can't reach when you are wiping down a reel after its use. And again, there's some old grease here on the click mechanism, so we'll do the same thing. I use a variety of things to clean. I'm using cotton swabs right now to mop up that old grease. And that'll be ready to go again. Lever drags like this are popular for deep drop fishing, for jigging because of a high speed, and for trolling because of the line capacity. So there's a lot of good things going on in a small format here. As we mentioned, the competitors in this space would be Aved or Accurate. Those are two. All right, there's a spring on that central shaft. There's a bearing inside the case there, and we can pull out the rest of this. We have a bearing and a ferrule, and a bearing back here. So I'm just going to oil the bearing back here. I'm going to wipe up the overflow of the old greases here. Bring the axle shaft in. This has got a set of tension washers right here that are going to help with the adjustment on your lever drag if you need to adjust for a more sensitive feel or a less sensitive feel. The tension washers. Just a light coating of grease on there, probably put too much on. Let's reinstall that ferrule. Well, actually, we want to bring our axle shaft back in, bring the ferrule in from this side. Let's oil the inner bearing. I'm looking at the drag washer while we're at it. This one is in good condition. It doesn't show much wear at all. If you had these cross hatches were clogged with old grease or something, use a bristle brush like a toothbrush or something. Just pull it through until you can see that cross hatching again. These generally do not get greased. They generally run dry, so we're going to leave them that way. Reinstall that spring. On some lever drags that you're working on, the spring will have a small washer on top and bottom of it. Sometimes that prevents binding of a bearing. This one does not have those washers on there, so just be aware of it. Sealed bearing, you do not need to oil or grease that. And this is the spool side service completion. Find your through stud on that back axle shaft. Notice that it does move. So center it midway. Look for the slot in the case. That's where that's going to nestle. And then bring that in. If you're having any trouble merging the two, just turn your axle shaft a little bit for better alignment. All right, that side of the case is done. We've cleaned this case for the most part. Just going to go back now and get rid of that dirt and debris that might be there that we let the penetrating oil go work on. There's a little bit here and there. It's all old dried grease, and you do want to get the old dried grease out of the case. You don't want that floating around in there. Okay, that's good for that. Looks like just a little bit of cleanup here. This is an interesting piece here because I'm not sure what that is. So it doesn't look to be rust. It's kind of hard to see. So I'm going to just take a piece of steel wool here and mat it over and just see if it's something other than rust. Yeah, hard to say. Hard to say. We got most of it off. So I think something probably collected in there. I don't know what that something might be, dried on it. But overall, we are okay with that. All right, clean up the face. I think we already did this, but it's been a while now, so I'm just going to pull through again on this. All those teeth are clean, so the next thing we want to do with that then is to grab some fishing reel grease. In this case, I'm using Penn Precision reel grease. And we're just going to put a good amount of grease on there. You don't have to get it in every tooth, but a good amount of grease will help it to run smooth. You got to be careful with the greases you may use on your axle shaft because that's also going to go through the sleeve for your anti-reverse. So just a little bit up on the top end of this, and we can reset this after we oil that back case bearing. This one is not sealed, it's shielded, so oils and greases will get in there. There's a little bit of pitting in the case there. Okay, bring that over and in. I wanted to make sure that I pushed out, when I did that, pushed out the sleeve for the anti-reverse clutch. There's a little washer and another sealed bearing because I want to make sure that we get that sealed or that shield cleaned off. Anti-reverse clutches run on friction, and if it's oiled, well, the friction isn't going to be effective. This does have a little inset so that it's only going to fit on one side of the main gear, so you just need to make sure that you get that set right, and then push that down inside that anti-reverse clutch, just like that. Next up was the copper colored washer, who knows what the material is, and then our sealed bearing on the outside. And then we have this metal washer and this Teflon washer go underneath. You can put the handle on at this point if you would like to do that. No harm, no foul. And actually, the handle will be out of the way of those three, so why don't we just do that right now to make it easier. And again, this one doesn't have that wrench, so you just have to be careful about this. You don't want to scar anything up on that. Okay, we're set on this. That's your gearing side. We're set on this. Simply merge it. Bring the two in, line up your holes. That is your case. We noticed that all three of these were the same. So I'm going to put the one in on the top. I always do this. I should have switched the throw on this before, but for whatever reason, I'm late to the party. All right. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, if you leave those questions in the comment section, I will try to answer those for you. We've covered a lot of things today about who this manufacturer is, a little bit about the reel itself, how it works, certainly enough about how it gets serviced. But there might be other questions you have on this reel. Leave them in the comment section. Or it can be a totally unrelated question. Maybe you're working on a reel and want to know similar information about that reel. Just, again, leave that there. I do try to answer questions on a regular basis. I try to answer them in the morning, so if you're watching this in the evening, well, maybe the next day before I answer it, but I do try to answer those for you. All right, we're putting the bottom screw in here. And this is a good place right now to spin that spool, make sure everything's running nice and easy on it, because if it's binding here, there's no sense going any further. That's a nice turning reel there, no problems with that. You can also take this time now to grab that little cleanup piece we had here, get the part that's going to be covered in a moment. One final cleanup, if you will. All right. Next up is a Teflon washer that goes on the back of this. I don't know why that was on the front. I took that off. It doesn't make sense. All right, this is your ramp mechanism. Remember, we had that in the free spool position. You're going to notice that there's two sides here. Just pop that open. That's fine. There's a ramped side, and then there is a valley side. The valleys fit over that ramp when installing the free spool mechanism. I believe they call this the preset mechanism. Make sure it's set in. Come over to your free spool. Bring that down. Make sure that it seats on that stud. Now it's got a square there inside, so it needs to seat there. And this is one reel. He sent me two of these. I actually noticed on the other one, which had some writing on this knob, something I've been saying for a long time. It said, do not adjust the lever drag in any position other than free spool. That's because you can damage the reel if you're trying to adjust it in some other place. All right, we start simply by just snugging it up, making sure that it's okay. Spin the reel, turn it into gear, and at this point, I think we are very loose. We need to adjust some more. So a few more turns, and it's an iterative process. Now we've got to stop on the first strike. And we're actually, second time around is a pretty good guess. That's a full, well, just maybe the slightest bit more, maybe another quarter turn or something. Again, I always come back to spin that spool, drop it into the first strike. That's a good first strike. And now we're firm and solid on the second strike. So that's how you do it. That's a Atlas lever drag reel. It's a reel that's made in Taiwan, we believe by Omoro as the manufacturer. It's a nice reel, quality materials, rather simple and straightforward in design. We showed you how to service the main gear, which appears to be a stainless steel main gear. Showed you how to service the spool by taking it all apart, cleaning it up, making sure that the old greases are gone, oiling the bearings that can absorb the oils, cleaning the others out, and well, putting it back together again and adjusting that free strike lever or preset lever. I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. And I want to thank everybody for watching. Wish everybody fun times and great fishing as you head out on the water. And if you have a reel, well, we're still in the wintertime season. A lot of us don't have the fishing available to us now. I know my ponds are frozen over right now. But this is a good time to service your reels and get them ready for the spring run. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.